and we'll immediately now proceed to the plenary session 1 titled Envisioning 2050, the Intersection of AI and Healthcare. In this session, our distinguished speakers will explore how artificial intelligence is reshaping care delivery and system design, and what that means for the hospital of the future. I'm pleased to welcome on stage our panelists with the chair of this session, Sarah Siegel, Global Head of Healthcare at Deloitte UK. Thank you very much and have a great Congress.
Good morning. Welcome to our opening plenary entitled Envisioning 2050, the Intersection of AI and Healthcare. I'm Sarah Siegel, Global Head of Healthcare at Deloitte, and I'm very proud that this is my third year facilitating a panel on AI at the IHF World Hospital Congress. Each year, the prominence of this session grows. I would like to claim credit, but I know it's the topic of AI, and not me, that draws the bigger and bigger crowds. Today, we want to push your thinking. We want to look beyond what we can see today and start to imagine the wholesale change that AI will bring to healthcare, to the patient experience, to the clinician experience, and to outcomes. To help me do this, we have a fabulous panel. Christina Fries-Decker is president and CEO of Corewell Health in Michigan. She oversees over 20 hospitals, 60,000 staff, and over 1 million covered lives through an insurance organization and an integrated care platform. We also have Dr. Manuel Dieterle. He's probably had the shortest distance to travel. He's from Basel. And he is the team lead for artificial intelligence at the University Hospital Basel. Peter will give us the insider's view on AI in healthcare and how it's being pioneered in hospital settings. And probably the panelist who traveled farthest today, Dr. Sujun Kim, clinical professor at Yonsei University College of Medicine, Yongjin Severance Hospital in Korea. She has over 200 academic and highly cited publications to her name, and she will provide the clinical and academic perspective to our conversation. So I'm sure you will agree with me that we have a truly august panel today. We will hear from each of our panelists in turn, and then we will have a brief panel discussion, including Q&A. If you have a question that you would like me to ask the panel, please put it in the app. To do this, please make sure you have the WHC app downloaded. In the app, you can click on this plenary, which is plenary 1, and then click on Q&A and polls. Ask your question and hit send. I will monitor the app on that iPad and try to infuse as many of your questions as possible. Before we hear formally from our panelists, I would like to show them and you a brief video to get us all thinking about the future of AI.
Artificial intelligence is redefining our everyday lives at an unprecedented speed and scale. But how is it reshaping the core drivers of our well-being, our health and healthcare systems? AI adoption in healthcare is rapid and is revolutionizing the entire healthcare value chain. The future of healthcare will likely be unrecognizable from today's. For the future, we anticipate 3 expansive shifts with AI in healthcare. 1. AI-powered hospitals. Today, with disjointed systems, patient data interoperability is a laborious task, leading to long wait times. As a result, doctors often have to rely on their own judgment and experience to make decisions. In an AI future, physicians will have all key data at their fingertips, making their decisions more precise and customized to each patient with a wealth of supporting evidence at their disposal. AI will help streamline and integrate patient data, diagnostics, treatment planning, and resource allocation in real time, eliminating wait time. 2. Healthcare turns predictive and preventive. In today's world, healthcare is often one step behind. It is acting in response to patient symptoms, with the majority of time and effort focused on reacting to problems instead of trying to prevent them. In the future, the focus shifts to being predictive and preventive. Smart technologies will aid the shift to healthy behaviors and habits. AI will decode, decide, inform, and connect patients to the right care maintenance protocols. With the emergence of new professions focused on wellness, healthcare will move from sick care to well care. Free, remote care becomes the norm. Currently, remote care is the exception, not the rule. Most healthcare interactions require travel, waiting rooms, and time off work. This is expensive, inefficient, and unsuited for the long term. AI is set to change this paradigm. Virtual diagnostics and data sharing, whether from home or virtual hubs, will become routine, supported by strong connections between patients and hospitals. This shift will make remote care more effective and responsive, releasing in-person capacity for complex consultations and surgery. The future of health, powered by AI, will also bring hyper-personalized health risk analysis, genomics-driven preventative and personalized medication, remote diagnostic precision, transparency in clinical decisions, autonomous clinical workflows, proactive identification of global networks and expertise for targeted local care, and much more. Fueled by AI, the healthcare model is on track for its next-gen evolution, where human compassion meets machine precision, delivering healthcare experiences beyond anything we have seen before. Come, join us in this amazing AI journey and experience the future of health today.
Easy. I'd now like to get some brief reactions from our panelists. So panelists, I think just in a minute or two from each of you, what I'd love to hear is, what do you think of this future vision? Is this possible? Is this kind of today, not future-focused enough? What will be easy or hard to accomplish in this vision? Tina, can I ask you to start, please?
Thank you. So I think that this is a vision that is one that is, in some cases, we're doing now, and in other cases, we want to make sure we have it, especially when it focuses on health. But when we think about AI, it's not just magic. It is about putting the effort in to ensure that we can deliver deliver care that's more personal, that's extraordinary, and that it's easier to access and navigate so that people can be healthier. One of the key points that I think that we covered in this video was the interoperability of data. And there's a lot of focus on that interoperability, but we also need to make sure that data is useful and can be used for a predictive and effective approach. And so there's lots of programs that we've put in place, but if you don't have the right data infrastructure to do that, and it's all in silos, it's not going to create the outcome that we want to do to truly solve the problems that we have. I'll give an example. We've been really focused on how do we improve access and release more times in our appointment slots so that we can see more patients. But to do that, we need to align on templates and align on what the appointment schedules are and how we're going to see people. AI can transform that through agentic call centers, through process, but if you don't have the right system set up for conversation with what your physicians are looking for and the rules and the processes associated with it, it will not solve the problem that you're trying to accomplish. And so I think we need to make sure we're spending a lot of time on the data and then also on the ethics and discussion of how we're going to use that and how we're going to drive that forward before we can move forward with some of the solutions that are coming forward.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tina. Manuel?
So good morning, everyone. Obviously, from a scientific perspective, I'm thrilled about such a vision, and it's very inspiring. So I'm thrilled to be part of that journey and working on AI, and I can't wait to make or use AI to make the world a better place. However, I see a few challenges going there. One is, as Sarah was already mentioned, the real power of AI comes from bringing all of these components together to create a holistic view. And usually AI systems are very strong in particular specific tasks. So there, it's important that we have a good way of integrating all these individual components to a coherent picture, such that we have the required holistic view, which ultimately is needed to create the best patient treatment and best care for all the patients. Secondly, it's important to have or to find a good balance between quality and speed. And this is usually something where by nature we human beings struggle. We tend to trade quality for speed. So it is important that we figure out a way that we can use AI to make us slower in the important moments where we need to give us back focus, and speed up where actually there is not an important part that can be neglected. So it's important that we have this right balance.
Thank you, Manuel. And Sujin.
Hello, good morning. I have a somewhat different viewpoint from the movie clip.
Great.
So we always think that the AI is some kind of a dream thing. It will solve out lots of things or problems we face today. But actually, AI, I think it is not a genie in the lamp. So it cannot solve everything, because there's a very big difference gap between digital literacy from country to country and from generation to generation. So first thing, if we want to achieve something from AI, we have to bridge the gap between that digital literacy between generation to generation. And I think we try to use AI in our hospital. We show you the use cases in our hospital a few minutes later. But we always look at the cases that older people or younger people have different way using AI and managing their data themselves. So I think digital literacy should be coming first from before the AI reign the world.
Brilliant. Well, thank you all for your reflections, and you've whetted our appetite for your presentations as well. So we'll move to those straight away. I'd first like to invite Tina to the lectern.
Well, bonjour. So, how many of you, all of us here are in the business of saving lives, but how many of you are in the business of saving marriages? I didn't think we were in the business of saving marriages until a year ago when we launched some of our new programs. So, in the US, we have heard from our physicians for far too long that the burnout and the time it takes to do charting, it's taking away from their patients and really listening and understanding and having that interaction and creating that relationship. And our patients really weren't feeling that connection to our physicians either. So we wanted to solve a problem, which was reducing physician burnout, and we also wanted to increase access to patient care. And so we implemented an ambient listening tool with patient consent that listens to the patient and the physician and the provider conversation, and then puts that together, the relevant information in real time, into an easily understandable note that the physician can then review and approve almost seamlessly, and it's available for the patient. We rolled this out in January to about 4,000 of our physicians and advanced practice professionals, and we've seen an amazing impact. Our patients have said that they feel more cared for, listened to, and heard, because now our physicians and advanced practice professionals are looking at the patients eye to eye, and you can see those nonverbal cues and understanding what's going on. Our physicians and advanced practice professionals have been able to increase their schedule by an average of 2.2 patients or appointments per week. And our physicians have also noted a 1.6-hour reduction in pajama time work, which means that they are now at home having dinner with their families and focusing on their hobbies. And their clinician satisfaction has now increased to an 85% satisfaction, which is truly phenomenal. So this has saved marriages. One of our physician spouse wrote to us and said, "I can't believe it. You gave me my spouse back. You gave us our mom, our dad back, and so it's fantastic." So this is what we're about. We're now in the business of saving lives and marriages. So for Corewell Health, we have a top 10 tech rules of the road. And the first thing on that top 10 list is, what problem are you trying to solve? And it always comes down to what we're doing with our mission and our vision and our values, and being very clear about what matters most. Our mission is to improve health, to instill humanity, and to inspire hope. Those three words: health, humanity, and hope. And so we're always thinking about how that applies to the people that we serve, whether it's the patients that we have in Michigan, or it's our health plan members, and to the 65,000 people that work at our organization. How do we make it easier for them? How do we make it more personal? How do we make it extraordinary? So that's our big focus. We start in the conversation about the problem we're trying to solve. And in the case of ambient listening, it was, how do we reduce physician burnout? And how do we make sure that our physicians feel satisfied about being a physician, and they can get back to what they wanted to do in the first place: take care of people and connect with people, instead of spending all their time charting. So our solution wasn't necessarily unique. Many in the US have ambient listening. But what is unique and equally important is our approach to doing that. There's no shortage of problems that we need to solve in healthcare. As I've toured many international places, we all have the same issues: aging demographics, shrinking workforce, funding issues, and so on. And we want to make sure that we're always improving the experience and the outcome, and we're finding ways to do it in a more effective and efficient and innovative way. We also know that there's no shortage of solutions. And AI, while it's not magic, it can't just be put into a box. It needs to move and evolve very quickly. And so what's really important is that we're focusing on the problem that we're trying to solve, match it with the right solution, and then implement that solution. It's not about the products that we choose, it's about the discipline that we apply as we move forward with it. And so you can see here on this slide, this is our AI approach, and there's three main areas that we have: governance, the foundation, or kind of a platform that you have, and then how we're driving the solutions as we move forward with it. So it starts with governance. We need to be really clear about our approach, the stance that we want to take. For example, are we going to try every tool that comes out, everything that's shiny that really looks like we want to do it, or are we going to be fast drafters? For us, we're those fast drafters. Like when you're in a car or in a bicycle, you're going to go right behind somebody to make sure you're there in innovation, but we're not going to be the one always out front. And so we're those fast drafters. We're also focusing on who is responsible for making the decisions. For us, we have an AI council, and we believe that it's really important to have a diverse set of perspectives and views at that AI council. So we have clinicians, we have operational leaders, we have risk and legal, we have ethics there, to make sure that we're pulling all of that together. One of the things that's really important when we make a decision and then we're accountable to that decision is that you actually have the debate. I think many problems that occur today in our society is because we don't actually bring up the issues. We don't have the debate. So we do have that in that AI council so that we can make sure that we're focused on the right problem, that we collaborate on that process, which is another one of the tech rules of the road, and then we can proceed forward. We also want to make sure that we are taking advantage of and leveraging the full breadth of portfolios that we offer. So when you put AI closest to the people who are doing the work, it lets them innovate and solve things faster. We also want to make sure that we're maximizing and optimizing what we have. That's another one of our tech rules of the road, is that we want to ensure that we're going a mile deep and not a mile broad, because we need to maximize and optimize the solutions that we have today. So that's the governance piece. From the governance model, we operate on a strong foundation across our system. So first piece, which was highlighted in the video, is an integrated data strategy approach. We are an Epic-first organization, having our entire system, including our health plan, on Epic. So we do not have silos, because if you have data in silos, it doesn't allow you to really integrate that information and do what's needed to make sure we're improving health, instilling humanity, and inspiring hope. And so we have that data on the same platform, and we are working consistently to revise that data to ensure it's driving towards the outcome we want to achieve. The second is that we are enabling our teams to ensure that they are AI focused and we can do automation and deployment through innovative solutions. And then the third is a healthy focus on education and upskilling and reskilling. We need to make sure that we are teaching people how to think about AI, how to use those tools. And that's where the top 10 tech rules can come into play, so they understand the principles of governance that apply to it, and then how do they embrace the AI instead of being fearful or scared about it. And then the third area is our solutions. So a key part of our areas is the prioritized initiatives that we have connected to our strategy. Again, everything has to be focused on the problem that we're trying to solve and connected to our purpose. We have, of course, tools that are available from third parties like Copilot that we're deploying. But the key part I want to talk about is the Agile AI deployment. And there's 3 areas where we can do that Agile AI deployment. The first, which is about 50% of the AI deployment, is AI as a feature. We are deeply invested in Epic and some of the other third-party tools, and this one is so important because Epic can develop AI faster than we can. And this is part of being a fast drafter. And this, for example, we've deployed AI that can summarize a chart for 1 page for an easy review. It really makes it easier for physicians to go in and understand what's going on with the patient, and then they can provide the appropriate treatment protocols. So this focus on a feature is critical for us. The second set is AI as a product. That's probably 30% of the time. And these are standalone products like ambient listening that we used for listening to the patient-physician conversation and producing the note. We're an early adopter of that tool throughout the United States, and now we're investing in other areas like expanding into nursing. We know that nurses, when they take care of patients in the inpatient setting, they narrate the care, and they naturally do that with their patient interactions. And so the system is now intelligently converting that information into structured flow sheet data. We've just started a pilot, and in the first 4 weeks of that pilot in one of our medical surgical floors, we have reduced almost 50,000 clicks and steps through the charting process, which is truly amazing. And again, it gets our nurses back to caring for patients, which is what they really want to do. And then the last one is AI as a factory. When there isn't a feature or there isn't a product readily at hand, then it becomes, how do we create something ourselves? And so that's probably 20%, maybe 15 to 20% of the time. So an example for that is we created a robot named Rex that processes faxes. Yes, we're still processing faxes. And we're moving that into scanned documents. And so it currently processes 1,200 faxes a day, soon to be increased to 2,000. And so it frees up people's time. There's sometimes those little things that you can do that we do in our AI hackathons that identify ways to save time and effort so that people, again, can get back to what matters most, which is our purpose and our mission and how we're taking care of people as we move forward. So AI is embedded into everything, but the most important thing here is how do we make sure we're solving the problems that matter most, that really tie back to the mission and the vision of an organization, to ensure that it is simple and easier to be extraordinary and to be personal. And as we see healthcare moving forward, I can see AI augmenting what we do and allowing humans to be their very best at providing the compassionate, humanistic care that they need to do, that we all want as patients, and able to do it in an innovative, efficient, and effective way possible. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you so much, Tina. Manuel, you're up next.
So, good morning, everyone. I would like to give you an insight on how we approach AI in Basel, specifically on a question that we ask ourselves: how can we use AI not to only help medicine be more advanced, but also more simple? Because the reality is, whenever we talk to our clinicians, they spend way too much time on the computers rather than with the patients. This is underpinned by a study from the US, although already in 2017, but still valid, showing that the average day of a clinician is more than 10 hours, and more than half of that time they spend on the computer. That doesn't necessarily need to be a problem, but when we look at the components, we see that more than half an hour is for searching for information, just figuring out in what of these 200 systems or whatever number of systems the information is, and another large amount on documenting information, feeding back information back to the systems. And that problem, unfortunately, is not static, it's growing. Society is aging, so people, they get older, we have more and more patients. Due to the better treatments, the patients also live longer, they have, quite often they have multiple chronic diseases, so get more complex, require more testing, and due to the precision diagnostics, which is fantastic from a scientific perspective, because that gives more data points, it also poses a challenge because it increases the amount of data to digest. So, I'd like to make the bridge now with a famous picture from quite some time ago, where a specific man was claiming that at some point in time everyone will have a computer on his desk, and no one believed him. But actually that was the moment where we gained a lot of access to information. Now we cannot think about a life without a computer, and that's where now when we enter the era of AI, we need to use that technology to bring back the focus and the care to the patient. By that I do not mean automation, but truly personal care for every patient. Okay, how do we want to achieve that? In Basel, I mean, or as in most hospitals, each individual department, they have a lot of research groups, they have growing expertise, experiences, plans, projects, strategies. We decided that we need to bring that all together, streamline it. We created this framework according to the hub and spoke model. We have a dedicated governance hub which focuses on the governance topics, GRC subjects, providing the guardrails for a trustworthy and safe and responsible implementation. And we have the implementation hub, where we connect all the different departments together, ensuring that they have what they need, enabling them, streamlining them, and making the process more efficient. So, okay. As in many places, for us it all started in the radiology department, where they built algorithms to segment anatomical structures and identify patterns to support decision making. Now with the sudden rise and the easy access to the large language models, we suddenly have access or the need to AI in every clinic, almost on every desk with each clinician. A lot of the information we have and we would like to digest is either in digital form or by speech. So that gives us a lot of opportunity and specifically underpins the need of that hub and spoke framework where we centralize all of that together. And that also opens the door to a new research area, multimodal AI, aiming to combine all of these techniques, visual, audio, and text together to provide a holistic view of the patients. And obviously, in the heart of all is trust, our governance hub providing all the guidelines and principles we need for what we can do, how we can do to have a trustworthy and responsible implementation. So that's all nice. Seems like we have an efficient framework allowing us to work, develop, implement AI, bring it into the clinic, but how do we do that, and where do we start? Whenever we talk to clinicians, we realize, as mentioned before, there is one big problem that everyone shares. The access to data and processing of data requires a lot of time. When we dig a bit deeper, we see actually most of these processes look similar, and there are a lot of manual steps involved. Collecting all the findings of a patient, studying the patient records, reviewing studies, guidelines, standard operating procedures, and so on, writing the report, all manual steps that require time, then in the end cannot be spent with the patient. And these are all steps, where we actually can use or would like to use power of the large language models to make the clinician's life easier and allow them to focus back on the patients. Let me now, to make this a bit more tangible, show you how we approach that, and what we're currently working on is something we call an AI assistant. For us, it's important to say assistant because for us, we do not talk or want to replace any clinicians, but what we want to do is remove friction from the clinical work. Let's use an example on a realistic example with a patient from urology with a diagnosed prostate cancer. He is waiting for the medical doctors to tell him what's the best treatment. So they need to discuss that case at the multidisciplinary tumor board. With that AI assistant, they can then enter, for example, that patient ID. That will automatically pull all the data from all the clinical systems into one view, already solving the problem of struggling to figure out where the information lies. The information can be browsed and looked and digested, or we have two additional components. One is the literal string search, where they can browse through the records, search for diagnose, or a semantic search using the power of LLMs, where they basically can ask a question and the large language model browses through the data and pulls the latest records, or in that case, a summary. So you can push that then even further. In that case, for prostate cancer, obviously you can ask for specific information, which is not accessible through the literal search. He will guide you, for example, if you ask for extracapsular growth, we'll go through the records and provide there's no information indicating any extracapsular growth. So in that case, if they want to discuss that patient in the tumor board, they would have to go through all the systems, pull the relevant information, write an overview report with the relevant information that the patient can, or that case can be discussed. And with our tool, basically they have an automated report, which then they can access as a draft and save time for the discussion. That is not even dependent on the use case. Obviously, as discussed before, that can be applied to almost every department. Imagine another patient, Doris Sample, patient on the internal medicine. There, usually the patient tends to stay longer in the clinic, and the doctors have to write handover reports when they switch shifts. That's something we can also pull with that tool. Handover report, please, here you go. Or if the patient is then finally discharged, here you go, discharge report. Or even we think about the nurses, they need to write a nursing report, they can also automatically pull that with that tool. So it doesn't really matter if we talk about multidisciplinary tumor board reports, discharge reports, any reports of kind, finding information, searching information, summarizing information. It's all about the same thing. We need to bring back the focus of all the clinicians to where it actually has to be, and that's the patient.
Thank you, Manuel. And finally, we'll hear from Sujin. Thank you.
It's my honor to stand here and have share our experience about AI solutions in hospital today. So can I go on to my slide? Yeah. So before starting the presentation, I will have just a brief summary of our institution. Our institution is located about 30 kilometers far from Seoul, which will be the location of next year's World Congress of Hospital. And our size of hospital is about 7 inpatient bed unit, and we have about 220 physicians working in hospital, and all the workers in hospital is around 1,400. So it's a mid-sized hospital in Korea. So this picture is a whole summary of solutions used in our hospital. I have just brought a very practical slide today, and these red boxes solutions are the solutions which use AI in their cores. But actually, the older system have the background data, and the background data can be reconstructed using AIs. So I will just go on to the slide, which a lot of them will be well-known solutions. We eagerly adopted AI solutions from the beginning of the hospital 6 years ago, because the 6 years before, there was a very big heat of COVID-19 pandemic all over the world. So with the beginning of the hospital, we were very eager to adopt AI solutions. At the time, adopting AI solution was just correlated to survival of the hospital. But after adopting the solutions, we are now under the way to reconstruct the background data generated from AI solutions, merging them and evaluating themselves, and making another value from AI to AI. So we categorized AI solutions in 3 manners. The first one is clinical diagnosis, and second one is patient safety, and third one is working efficiency solutions. So for clinical diagnosis, we use a lot of radiologic AI solutions and fundoscopy and digital pathology solutions as well. And it is very weird to say safety and efficiency at the same time, but you can see that once a radiologist comes into the hospital, they can sort out using AI solutions by clinical abnormality score, which was calculated by the solution. So they can easily find the abnormal chest X-rays first with the beginning of their daily work time, and inform the physicians about the risk status of the patient, which was found in their routine chest X-rays. So behind this data, we were able to summarize that a successful implementation of artificial AI-based detection system is very useful in clinical daily practice. So the second category is that AI solutions used for patient safety. Yes, all the AI used for patient safety, a lot of clinical workers reducing the workload and getting more time. Patient safety comes placed in the first. So we use AI-based CDSS solution to detect septic shock and cardiac arrest in general ward patient. So once the score is calculated and we created a system, the score is messaged to the physician and duty nurse
and thereby activating the rapid response team activation. So how come we could reduce the mortality using AI solution? After using AI solution in patient safety, we were able to reduce about 10% of mortality compared to 3 years before. As much of you know that reducing 1% is very hard to achieve, to expect and prevent unexpected mortality in patient ward settings. So using AI has enabled reducing mortality. And for efficiency, we use AI solutions just linked in our daily EMR setting. So not all the EMR pages work with large language model, but we started with summarizing the patient status for consultation notes and emergency room discharge notes, which requires a lot of time for physicians to focus on and gather lots of information in very brief time. So the blue bar and orange bar is before and after introducing LLM to our EMR system. So the time required to write a consultation record has reduced almost half, and the completion rate has almost doubled. So for operational efficiency in hospital, not like from a patient side, we use AI automation for prediction and analysis of patient service and patient customer satisfaction aspects. For more efficient moving, we use AI-based service robots and customer analysis, which works with voice analysis. And for patient service, AI docent kiosk and process mining are used. And we are now, next time, planning to move all this data into digital twin system, so thereby expecting us to predict the operational data and the predictive status of all the patient and patient-related settings in hospital. So this is the final and the key slide which I have brought today. So all the people are talking about AIs in future, but what do we want to achieve by using the AI? So we think that we have to make a self-assessment measure where we are and what we want to achieve and where we are going to. So we had brought up 11 dimensions related to various fields of digital innovation. The first one, AI comes into the first place, but there's also the dimension like digital literacy or sharing community values or sharing values with smart hospital. So thereby we can bring up the ideation of AI using solutions or AI-related research, what we want to do and what we are doing and what we should do. Thank you for listening.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, panelists. And I was not surprised that we got into some deep data there. So much to ask about. Manuel, I might start with you. One of the things that you showed in your presentation was how there was a feedback loop between the actual patient experience and then a comparison to your standard operating procedures. And I think one of the things we see a lot in healthcare is huge amounts of variation across pathways, across clinicians. What are you actually doing with that data to try to reduce variation?
Well, this is not easy to answer.
Okay.
Because, I mean, although we always have a strong focus on implementing feedback loops, the data you gather with such feedback loops offers many doors, right? And to figure out what is the key message that you can feed back, there are multiple options. And so what for us is always important is, first, we identify a problem. So we discuss with our clients, or let's say the clinicians, what actually is the problem, because it doesn't help if we build a tool or a solution which is fancy but doesn't really make their life better. And from their experience, we have a framework where actually they can provide that feedback in a way where we can have kind of a labeled data set that we can then feed back to the original pipeline to improve or adapt wherever necessary.
Thank you. Tina, you gave some brilliant use cases for AI, including one on ambient listening. This is one of the most popular early technologies, I would say. Every country has different regulatory frameworks, and there's obviously a lot of discussion about permissions, opt-in, opt-out, data privacy, these sorts of things. And when we progress with technologies like ambient listening, these issues come to the fore. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've been navigating some of those hurdles?
Sure. So for ambient listening, it does require a good relationship with the patient to accept the consent. We put that in our regular processes, and we've had very minimal concerns from our patients about the recording of it. In fact, many have started to ask some of our physicians, are you going to do that? Because they realize the notes that come out of the session are actually even better than they were before. And so I do think it's building that trust. One of the elements of healthcare is that the trust is reducing between patients and the healthcare system and physicians and so on. And so it's continuing to build that trust up. And so we do that by talking about how do we use the data, what are we trying to move forward with. I think another key piece that we need to ensure that we have is health literacy. Many of the people we serve do not have health literacy, do not understand their medical record, do not understand that process. And so I think there's a way for the ambient listening in the nonverbal cues and then in the notes that come out of it to help improve the health literacy. And that way the patients can also take the information and take action on it so that they can be healthier.
Such a good point. And oftentimes, I think in the room, patients don't absorb everything. So it's great to be able to go back and recall what was said in a layperson's language, right? Sujin, you made a great point about the digital divide. And in your example, it was about a generational divide between the older and the younger generation. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're doing to cater to the needs of the different generations?
So 5 years before, it's our practical experience case. 5 years before we started hospital, we widely adopted chatbot system using like the Korean manner. There is a WhatsApp-like a national app called KakaoTalk. So all of the information we tried to use our unique hospital-oriented application, but the older generation was not familiar with launching the new app or getting a new application on their cell phone. They just still used KakaoTalk, like WhatsApp-like application for their communication. And they were very familiar with using YouTube-like very famous application, but they were not very easy to use the hospital application, which catches their personal data or vital sign data. So instead of giving them a new application, we tried to link all kind of information gateway to that kind of KakaoTalk-like solution. So easier way for older generation to get into touch with the digital things which come from hospital. But for younger generation, they are very eager to touch to the hospital by digital manner, like using maybe application or chatbots or internet things. So bridging the gap between older generation and younger generation starts from connecting them, which solutions are more useful for older generation, I think. And that's a link to the comment from Manuel, assessing the problem point. So what is the problem point bridging the digital divide?
Thank you. Okay, great news. You all know how to use the app. We have a lot of questions. I'm going to start with a biggie. I think none of us will have escaped the fact from watching the news that AI is expensive and that there is definitely an environmental component to the cost of running data centers. I'd love to hear from any members of the panel. Maybe Tina, we'll start with you because of your health system overview about how you're considering both the financial costs and the environmental costs of AI.
Good question. So for us, when we look at AI, we're trying to really solve the problem that we need to, we're trying to solve the problem. And so we want to make sure that we're really focused on that area. It is expensive if we're to roll out a bridge. How do we do that? We're trying to figure out how do we roll it out to our nurses, as an example. And it has to create more efficiencies within the organization, and that will require some changes in how we operate. One of our tech rules of the road is change has to be managed and led. And so as we move forward in this process, solving the problem, using AI in that way, we have to be really clear that it can't just be we're putting technology in. You're not taking a paper process and putting it into a computer. We are changing how we're doing that, and that will then deliver the outcomes that we are hypothesizing about. I think from a echo perspective for data centers, there's a lot of data centers being created in the US, and so there's a lot of discussion about how do we do that power. There's also some power that is not being taken advantage of because you have to have some of the power at a peak center. And so there could be ways to navigate that power when you're not at peak capacity, and to use that power to do some of the AI as we move forward. And there are other ways that we are looking at power. I know in my state there's lots of energy focused on how do we have that eco-friendly power process to ensure that we can drive it in a better way and it's more sustainable.
Thank you. Any thoughts from either Korea or Switzerland on the cost of AI and the environmental cost?
Yes, thanks. So although I obviously agree that per default AI can be considered expensive, I think we should more look at it from a perspective of cost versus benefits. Because, I mean, as I said earlier, I think first of all we need to ensure that whatever we introduce, being AI or not, that it's not an isolated, siloed system that just solves one problem, but is not like connected and with other systems and helping to contribute to the holistic picture. As long as we don't do this and we have a strategic component, then I think the benefits obviously increase a lot. And then we're back to the how much does it cost question, where I think that really depends on use case. If you gain something out of it and you make your workflow, your hospital, your clinic, whatever, more efficient, then probably that is much more than the cost that you have to invest, especially if you ensure that it's not a siloed but a strategic component. So I think from that perspective, I mean, I think the key ingredient is not the cost, but why do you invest something and what do you expect out of it?
Thank you. Anything to add, Sujan? Are you okay?
Well, estimating cost effectiveness of AI is pretty hard thing in hospital field because there are lots of things to count in. For example, the well-trained person, well-trained medical person in hospital is a very valuable person. So how can he evaluate the cost of that well-trained doctor or well-trained nurse? So if they feel very hard or very heavily labored in their daily working, so do we have to adopt AI to let them be free for 1 or 2 hours in their daily working? Or should we take in more workers inside? It's a very hard thing to calculate. But I mean, the thing is culture. So if an institution thinks about the workers like doctors or nurses, even the caring person, so if the organization wants to adopt AI or robot things to have them manage their working time, leveraging and let them make balance between working and resting in their working time, I think that's worth to adopt a solution or AI system. But cost calculating only cost effectiveness is quite hard in daily hospital life. It's my just maybe some kind of a human viewpoint.
Indeed, thank you. We have a lot of questions on workforce, so I might try to combine one or two of them. This one is very well worded, so I'm going to read it verbatim. How are leading hospitals retraining their clinicians and managers to work confidently alongside AI systems, not just as users, but as decision partners? And I think the whole kind of how does the role of a clinician change over the coming years? And what are we doing in terms of communication with universities, medical schools to sort of take that back through the training is a really interesting theme that we should explore. And if I may, I'm just going to couple that question with one more because we have so many. This one is worded in a slightly more challenging way. Will AI replace some of our human health workers, e.g. nurses, radiation technologists, et cetera? If so, is this a threat to the future of some of our professions? So that's obviously a question that we're coming up against in our day-to-day, and I think it does bear addressing. Tina, since you oversee so many people, maybe you'd like to start us off.
So I think that AI will augment, but I think that what we do will change because we will be using AI in a different way, and we will need to make sure we're continuing to move forward with what we bring uniquely to the field. For the education, I think it's really important that we understand how we make decisions and what data we need to make those decisions and to move it forward. And as we do the training, we know that people are being shown an outcome from AI. We need to make sure we still have the critical thinking skills to ensure that it makes sense. Sometimes it can just be, here's the answer, and we take it. But if we don't really understand how that all comes together, then it could be detrimental to the patient in the process. So part of the education has to be how do you use the new tools and how do you think about things in a different way from paper to digital to AI. But then how do we embed that critical thinking skills into the process so that we're not just always saying yes to that, but again, it's an augmentation of what we do, and we can apply the things that we know from experience from other areas to ensure that it's going in the right direction. I think it will take a lot of review of how we traditionally train to rethink that process, and then how do we apply the technology or automation into that. One simple example is what will surgery look like coming forward? And there are papers being written right now about hand-free surgery being done through robotics. But you still have the surgeon there because you need to make sure we understand the process for that, the connection, what-if scenarios. The hand-free surgery may be even better because you don't have some of the complications, but we still need to make sure that we are there for some of those what-if issues. And so how do we train our surgeons for that interaction versus the actual surgery? Those are the things that we need to be thinking about, and how do we coexist with the technology.
Brilliant.
The education. About the education aspect, in my case, it's my personal case because I'm one of the clinicians who didn't use AI 7 years before. But it was a very rapid change with the adoption of AI solutions in our daily working. Then the hospital workers, doctors, nurses, they just gradually get familiar to AI solutions, and now they want to create their own AI something. So for education, I have no experience about medical college students regarding AI education, but for currently working hospital workers, changing their hospital maybe environment to AI-related thing, it gradually just take them drive to manage their daily working with AI.
Brilliant. Manuel, maybe I'll throw you a slight addendum to this question. We've seen a flight of people from the clinical professions in recent years for a variety of reasons. Stress on the job, not liking all the tech they had to deal with, pay not keeping pace with inflation, lots of reasons. And now there is concern that AI might be replacing some or all tasks. But do you see an alternate future where AI could perhaps entice people back into the healthcare workforce?
Well, sure. I mean, first of all, obviously I understand the fear coming up with like that immense technology, that powerful, let's say, potential. But I think it's wrong to see that as an opponent, right? Obviously, if you're not used to change, you do not like to adapt yourself, or you prefer to stay in your comfort zone and focus on one specific task only, maybe then yes, the risk that you are replaceable is there. But I think that's not how you should see it, right? I mean, this is something that is an opportunity for us, a tool that can help us make our life easier, more efficient, that you can use to focus or bring your focus on your right deserved topic. So that's an opportunity, and you need to get experience. Are not afraid of it, use it, explore it. You need experience to grow together with it, and I think that's the important thing, right? Because if it's something that you don't know, then you cannot really use it, and you don't know how to deal with it. And the experience is what you get if you didn't get what you want. So that's why it's important to just try without any fear of failing, yeah.
Brilliant. And then maybe a question on patients and the patient experience. Tina, you already gave a great example of how AI can improve the patient experience and how patients are inquiring, which is brilliant. I wondered if you or other panel members had more examples and whether you felt the overall sentiment of patients was positive, neutral, or negative when it comes to AI being integrated into their care experience. Sujun, maybe one from you.
Well, not yet patients use AI. They have very hard chance to look at the AI used in clinical diagnosis, because once the doctors use solutions, AI solutions for clinical radiology diagnostic tools, they already know the basics of chest X-rays or mammography. So based on their basic knowledge, they are easy to analyze the results that have been driven by AI. But in my personal, that's already, again, personal experience, but patients use AI solutions like clinical radiology results. They just use it as like picture book, just to visualize the results. So they directly get the information where my cancer is located. So if you just show them the CT scan, just gray and white and black things, they even don't know where is my cancer. But once there is colorized red or orange dots, just dispersed all over the body, they are very easily to detect that there's a lot of cancer located inside the body. So that's very easy case patient to experience AI solution for clinical diagnosis, but for their daily manner, we use voice AI for patients' history taking. So before they come into the clinic, they just record their symptoms and medications by voice recording, and it is speech-to-text copied to our EMR system. So the clinicians can easily view the data before the patient comes into the clinic. So that's very easy way of AI things. But the viewer is the doctors in the clinic, not patients himself. So I think we have to develop some more AI solutions or AI things that can be felt beneficial by patient or family members. But not yet, there are very little things.
Thank you.
I think that today there's some patients that are wary about AI, but in a few years it's going to be, is this what AI is saying? And so I think it's going to be one where it's going to be embedded as part of the clinician feedback, the process, the discussion, and patients are going to have some of that health literacy and understanding before they even come in. They have some of it today, but I just think it's going to continue to go. I think the key part for us, as we incorporate that AI in, whether it's sepsis AI or pathology or imaging or other things that we're doing to have more predictive understanding and to help us make those decisions, It's how do we talk about it with the patients. Right now, our patients get their lab results, their radiology results almost instantaneously. And so how do we have that conversation with them? How can we be even more effective and innovative and connected to them about that conversation? Because that's what it gets to humanistic healthcare, and that's where we can provide that connection.
Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, panelists, I would like to close our session with a brief lightning round. Here are the rules. I'm going to ask a question, and I would like you to respond with one word. If you can't do it in one word, one phrase, but very, very short answers. And the idea is this is just the first thing that comes to your mind. I'll call out your name, and then just say whatever's in your head, okay? Just 3 quick questions. Most surprising thing you have learned about AI in healthcare? Manuel.
Fear.
Sujin.
Genie in the lamp.
Tina.
Fear.
Brilliant. Question 2. Thing you want to see changed most through use of AI in healthcare? Sujin.
A door.
Say again.
Door. Opening the door.
Opening a door. Lovely. Tina.
Better health literacy to understand what's going on.
That was long, but I'll accept it. Manuel.
Focus.
Brill. Okay, last question. Top use case you have seen for AI in healthcare so far? Tina.
Saving marriages.
Saving marriages. Love it. Love it. Sujin.
Saving my time.
Awesome. And Manuel.
Saving my time.
So great. Well, I've taken so much away from this session. I was also going to bring up Tina's point about saving marriages. I do think sometimes we miss the wood for the trees and we worry about the things that aren't going to go right with the new technology, but we forget about all the things that are right and the things that are wrong with today's status quo. I love Sujin's points about equalizing the digital divide. I love Manuel's point about AI giving us time to go slow, which was brilliant. So I really appreciate you all for all the wonderful food for thought that you've given us. And I think it's going to be a great Congress by all of the questions that you've put into the chat. I'm sorry we couldn't address them all, but I invite you all to come find our panelists at coffee, which is coming up very soon. I first just need to remind you to please share your takeaways as well as your questions in the app. And when using social media, please use the hashtag IHFGeneva. We're going to have a break now. There's coffee pretty much everywhere. It's giving me locations, but I'm sure you can find it when you go outside. And our parallel sessions will begin at 11 a.m. So now please thank our fabulous panelists.